Hi, I'm Harold Sanborn. I'm with the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Army. For CODA and Forrest, you mentioned the sales experience and your, valet, I guess. That's a pretty aggressive business model. How you don't maintain that in a turbulent marketplace?
Turbulent meaning what exactly before you hand it?
Turnover, people change. I mean, I can't believe that that's to be an end state job for somebody. And yet, comfort in trying new technology probably is, an issue for early adopters. So if I always talk to, Jim on the phone and Jim says, yeah, here's your information, you develop that confidence, but then Jim gets a new job.
It's a fair question. With a new technology and a new sales model, in part it will be a trial, of course. At the same time, what we've learned in terms of doing research and speaking to folks like Google and Apple is that actually the lowest amount of job turnover is with your Mac Genius folks. I don't know how many folks here have Macs, but I go to the same people I have for 2 to 3 years, and we feel that a year and a half, 2 years is all you're really going to need before establishing this type of thing. And we plan on being extremely good to our employees, and we have systems in place to handle that. But it's a good question and one we think about and talk about every day.
Oh. Hi, Forrest. My name is Mike Needhammer. I'm with King Windward Nissan over in Kaneohe. And I was curious to know a little bit more about your distribution network or your retail experience that you folks can be able to provide for the end user.
Well, we're working all of that out, but we plan on being in innovative spaces such as in Los Angeles or in California, like a Westfield, where folks can do shopping and have places where learning centers can be in various locations, not just in our experience centers. And so in terms of our dealership models, we're in active negotiations with various types of vendors. And we're also taking a lot of comments, and so perhaps you and I can talk after this a little bit more about what you have in mind.
We have time for one more question.
My name's Tom Gillen from Solar Help Hawaii. I had a question about the Nissan. If we decide to lease the car instead of buy it, that $350 a month lease for 3 years, are there any tax advantages in that for the owner, for the leaser? That myself, or is there not? Is it the price based on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. The lease price of $350, that is incorporating the tax credit. So Nissan Motor Acceptance Corp, our captive finance arm, they take the tax credit and they pass it on 100% to the vehicle owner or leasee. So what they basically do is reduce the capital cost of the vehicle using the tax credit, and they pass that lower cost basis on to you in a lower lease price. I think the state rebate, I think maybe the people from the state can answer that better, but I think you would have to apply for that separately as a leasee and then get that money back from the state.
I'm gonna allow one more quick one.
Yeah, be real quick. Roger Dunn, I'm a Resource Efficiency Manager at Hickam Air Force Base. I was wondering if you could elaborate more on the miles per kilowatt hour. You guys didn't talk much about that. That number would then affect certain cars that get a certain mile per gallon. It might actually be not cost effective to go electric. Based on my calculations, probably 35 miles per gallon or higher. Based on $3.50 for gasoline a gallon and 25 to 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you can elaborate on that. And then as far as the green aspect, since we're an oil burning state, wouldn't I just be transferring, the combustion in the engine to combustion in a power plant? So let's elaborate on the green aspect of that. Thank you.
That was 2 questions, but I'd love to hear the efficiency number.
I'll try this one. The Volt is it's an 8 kilowatt hour battery in terms of usable, 40 miles, so that's 5 kilowatt hours per mile is the vehicle efficiency. Another number that might be of interest to you if you take a barrel of petroleum, and that's the real energy that's coming to Hawaii, as Ted described earlier, with a gasoline vehicle, same size as the Volt, you can go about 900 miles. With an electric vehicle like the Volt, you can go about 1,300 miles. So there's about a 30 or 40% efficiency increase for an electric vehicle operating in the Hawaii scenario versus a gasoline-powered. So, and I think that's a pretty powerful calculation that we did over the past couple of weeks.
Let me add a little bit to that. Real world experience, when we took the car around the island on Sunday, we got about 90 miles on about 70% charge. So I think if you extrapolate that, you're going to get about 120 miles to a full charge. And that would equate to, I guess, roughly a little less than 5 miles a kilowatt hour. So I think it's roughly equivalent. So in terms of total cost of ownership, though, you look at the price of electricity on a national average is about 11 cents a kilowatt hour. You put that into the calculation, you put in $3.40, 50, 60, 70 cents per gallon gas, and you're going to, I think, come out with a really favorable calculation in terms of the advantage of electric drive versus gasoline. So, you know, we're pretty confident that there's a very strong total cost of ownership component to driving electric vehicles.
And two follow-up points. To your point of total cost of ownership, our sedan, and I imagine the same is true with my colleagues here, will have about they're not thousands and thousands of moving parts that will require a lot of maintenance. There are a lot fewer parts with electric vehicles, so that's something you got to factor into total cost of ownership. Additionally, with battery technology and advanced battery technology specifically, the technology is increasing and getting better every 3 to 4 months. And so I think what that will do over a long period of time is give you greater range, and the problem that you articulated will close in on the truth.
So first of all, that's a great question, and it's a common question. So on Mitsubishi side, and I'd say we'll all be working on this together, is that something that we're going to have to answer, build those miles per calculators. We're working with the utility companies. The sales consultant at the dealership is going to become a person that needs to be trained so they could answer these questions. It's going to be different by the region. In some places, it's going to be completely different. Southern California, I pay 20-something cents a kilowatt, so it's completely different. But again, cost of ownership, without showing all the numbers, is it's a significant benefit with the EVs. Again, not very many moving parts, no oil changes, all of that factored in. But still, you're right. We got to answer, what is it per kilowatt? What is it miles? What's the equivalent to miles per gallon? We're going to have all that. The whole force will be educated on that to answer those questions with consumers.
That's great. And I'll take a quick stab at the second half of your question. You know, the state has embarked on an aggressive program to get renewable energy into the grid, and plug-in type electric vehicles are an enabling technology to really diversify the fuel that we use for transportation, where currently we use almost, nearly 100% of our fuel for transportation is petroleum. By having the capability of plugging into the grid, we enable the use of renewable energy in our transportation fuels. So with that, I want to ask you to give a hand to Keiichi, Forrest, Joe, and John. Appreciate all the information, and feel free to catch these guys afterwards.